Hello, and I'm delighted to welcome Lewis Paris. And Lewis is the head of keyboard at Dulwich College. Wonderful to have you here, Lewis. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you, Julian. Thank you so much for having me today. It's
Uh,
really exciting to be here.
it's an exciting project, and I'm so glad that you can be a part of it, and we can all share our best experiences and hopefully inspire lots of students and teachers. I know that Dulwich College has been and very engaging and in this period for the students, and you have done an amazing job as the head of keyboard and sort of putting on quite a few of events. So could you tell us what have you been busy with?
Sure. Well, as soon as the lockdown came up, we were actually in the middle of a really exciting Beethoven 250 festival that we had created at the college. And although we managed to do quite a few events, it immediately came to a standstill. And but in the preparations to see how we would come up with ideas and events for the summer term, I said, well, we must do something with Beethoven still, so that the pianist can still engage with it. And I came with the idea of recording all the 32 variations in C minor by Beethoven, and but this time is using one pianist for each variation. So it took a few weeks to kind of get everyone on board, and I spoke to all my teachers and to all the students directly, and we actually managed to recruit 32 pianists for the 32 variations, which was really exciting. And that was a long kind of a 5-week project for the boys at Dulwich. And I assigned a variation for each of them depending on their level of of performance. And we have boys from year 7 all the way to year 13 performing in this video. They all prepared it at home with their teachers through Zoom lessons, and we also had a weekly meeting in which I would give them some guidance instead in terms of metronome markings, instead of the character of each variation, a little bit of background history on Beethoven. And the product is now ready, and I think
on
you can
YouTube,
see it.
and I watched it, and I must say it was so wonderful to see, and it becomes so kind of intimate and personal, and you can see that this guy is playing, and at the sort of start of their musical journeys. It's really lovely.
Yes, it's really wonderful. It's a kind of it's in a way it's a kind of a spectrum of what's happening in each of the homes. You see so many different pianos. You hear so many different tunings as well, and different types of piano, grands, electric keyboards, and still they are. But I think what was really compelling is that they all did their best, and I thought that there's a coherence across the recording, which
Totally.
was really.
And I'm sure it's actually a very nice process. It was a very nice for the students, because then you can, I'm absolutely sure that they were kind of excited to watch each other, and there were comments about how someone played. So it created quite a community.
Yes, exactly. And we all know that pianists are kind of lonely creatures. And so I think this project in itself was very good to create a sense of community. And many of them also kind of learned a few. They all had to learn a couple of bars from the previous variation and a couple of bars from the next. So it was not only about their variation. They all learned the theme, which was very important. And we did a whole session on how to play the theme, how to kind of convey the different sense of character from the theme across each variation. So it was really exciting. I thought it was a very useful exercise. And this piece is so wonderful because they are actually kind of little studies in themselves. So in many ways, the teachers and myself, we loved it because it was just a way of also just doing an extra work on technique with each of them. So it was really exciting.
And maybe, they can now teach each other. So those who have played, let's say, the first variation, say, hey, I can teach you. That were my sort of problems there, and I can show you what sort of works for me and didn't work. I find that's also helpful. And I know you was just mentioned that pianists are lonely creatures. Of course, it's very true. But I know you have some interesting collaboration with singers there going on, right?
Yes, so another of the projects that we have going on at the moment is with the junior school this time, and we just myself and the head of singing at the college, Dan Lotford Thomas, we put together a group of 4 pianists and 4 singers to record Bach Gounod Maria. So that is still in the process of recording, and it will be launched later in the term. And so we have the 4 pianists learn their parts. We divided it depending according to each of the phrases, and then they team up with the singers. So the way we have devised is that the pianists have all recorded their piano parts all at the same metronome marking, and then we give those recordings to the singers. They record their own parts, and then we're all putting it together at the end. So that has been a kind of a smaller size project, but it's been equally rewarding. They have been very excited about it, and they cannot wait to see the final result. So.
Look, I'm sure many are dying to know this, myself included. So do you have some kind of support who does this all together and teaches administrators?
Oh God, yes. Well, it's been. I mean, these 2 projects are actually part of the wider program of the music department, and it was quite long and kind of very thoughtful and careful meetings that we had, and on a way of how to create a music program for the Dulwich boys while they're at home. So these two projects are part of a wider picture of that includes the symphony wind band that are also recording a piece. The string players are also doing some things. The chapel choir recorded a song. There's another choir. So it's a matter of, it's a kind of a program that includes a wide variety of things, and we made sure that we didn't over engage them. So we were kind of trying to make sure that everyone, or as many boys as possible, would be involved without making it overpowering. So we have plenty of support. We have a phenomenal music technician who is just probably the busiest man in the department at the moment, who's trying to put everything together. And but it's working really well. And there's what we wanted to create is that music, whilst they are all at home, that music would still be a very important part of their lives.
Of course. And we talked about these challenges, but what are other challenges and maybe positives of this online tuition, which I'm sure you do now all the time?
Yes, there are many. I don't know if I don't think I can still speak about positives and negatives. I think what I can see is that I really miss the kind of the live interaction away from the screen, and I think our ears have been retrained in many ways to listen to the piano via the cameras, via different microphones, different qualities of broadband, and sometimes you listen to it very, very clearly, and sometimes things freeze. So it's not as easy as it is when you have it live. But I guess what the lockdown has brought for everyone, I guess it's a slower pace for everyone in the general pace of life. And what I have seen is that perhaps there is more time to do practice. Not so much do more practice, but do more thoughtful practice, and just the ability for everyone, myself included, to kind of be completely focused during the lesson. You're in front of a camera, you just cannot suddenly start thinking about something else, because it's a little bit more intense the way the lesson works. So I think everyone feels that, and I think there's been on my part, I have seen very good progress from the students, and I hope they, yes, I just don't know about positive negatives. Yeah, it's tricky to speak about it yet.
But I know that I mean, apart from these exciting projects you just mentioned, so you have also lunchtime concerts, which is another thing, right?
Yes, so we have a series of Wednesday lunchtime concerts. That's usually the day of the week in which we would normally do lunchtime concerts at Dulwich. So we launched the series with first with some old footage from previous concerts, and then we started including new material that as we had some completed. So the music award holders have been recording pieces at home, not only pianists, but all across all instruments. And we launched the 32 variations. There's actually one going on right now. I think it's still the Livers concert for the year 13s. And there's one more next week with another round of music award holders. So that has been really, really good to kind of give them the opportunity to record themselves and do a virtual performance at college. Yeah. So,
That's quite an intensive thing, actually. I'm sure also for teachers and for students to have a goal every week. That's
yes.
yeah.
Yes, it's been quite. It's made that it's all and all the good thing about these lunchtimes is that it's been completely voluntary. So I just send an email to them and say, whoever wants to record, whoever has something ready from your lessons, please just let me know, and they've all been very enthusiastic about it. So we've had a really good intake of musicians performing these concerts.
And for the future, I've seen you have, of course, an amazing hall, and you have some video equipment there already installed, I believe, because I've watched a couple of things from there. So do you have any plans of, let's say, increasing your audiences or broadcasting more from Dulwich, or?
Yes, well, I think without wanting to kind of get ahead too much, I think as we see how this situation develops and how social distancing is required in schools, and particularly when we go back to September, we still don't know exactly how the picture will be. But I guess in the near future, what we will have to do in a way is kind of stream concerts for audiences, perhaps having the students playing to an empty hall, which is not always the most thing.
Do you know what? I think you are, and many of the schools are in a very kind of privileged position, because I can tell you, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this, but I think I am, because look, for example, King's Place, where I went to perform, so they don't yet have that yet installed, I believe. So they are looking into it. So you're already kind of a step ahead in that state.
We have, I mean, I think we always use some kind of equipment that we can move from one place to the other, and I think we were very lucky to have the recording equipment to be able to do these things. So I'm pretty sure that we will be using it very often. And we've been recording past concerts, but not necessarily streaming. So yeah, perhaps that's a possibility that would be really good.
Sure. No, I just wanted to correct. Of course, King's Place has the video system in place. It's just they haven't started streaming yet, as let's say Wigmore Hall did. Yeah, so it's very different. Of course, depends all on the funding, I'm sure. I know that you have other exciting things to come up in autumn, right? Or they have been postponed to autumn. So
yes,
so very interesting.
Yes. So we have as I was saying at the beginning, we had this Beethoven festival slightly interrupted. So one of the main events that was taking place was going to be on the 17th of March, which sadly which was cancelled, which was the launch of the SSLP Music Hub, and that is the Southwark Schools Learning Partnership, in which we have a group of all the secondary schools in Southwark collaborating, and we were just going to launch the music hub, basically, in which all the music departments can have a closer relationship. And this event was going to concentrate on 2 lectures for the students. One was going to be on the Pathetic Sonata, which is a GCSE work in Edexcel, and we were going to do a kind of an afternoon study on that, an hour and 45, with all sorts of different activities. And we had 90 students from all schools signed up for that event, so that was going to be really exciting. And then following that, we had a lecture for more A-levels, kind of for the more A-level cohort, given by Professor Nick Marston from Cambridge University, and that sadly we had kind of a nearly full house also for that, and that sadly had to be postponed. Now we are looking at new dates at the moment. It will most likely take place via Zoom conference, and available to all the SLP schools, and very likely to many more schools who ever want to join to those lectures, because perhaps the ability of doing all these things online is that you can actually have a wider reach
Sure.
as well. So we are in the process at the moment. I cannot give you any dates yet, but
Sure.
we are in the process of making sure that we have something for the autumn term ready.
Sure.
Yes, so.
And I know you've been very kind and offered to give some tips for, let's say, some of the pieces and maybe repertoire. If you don't mind, that would be now a fantastic experience for our listeners.
Sure. Well, I think it was a very interesting question when you asked me to talk about that, because I am. It's been obvious that whilst the students are at home, they perhaps have a little bit more time to kind of spend at the piano. And what I've tried to do with many of my students and also my teaching team is to start insisting on that idea, which was where the Beethoven variations were born. I started a little bit more of the idea of playing studies and playing and kind of working on technique for those more mid-level students. Sometimes um, they have such little time. They are very busy musicians and very busy boys. Not all of them are first study pianists.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are stronger academics or sports people, and they just love playing the piano. And I think we everything is, for me, as long as they are engaging with the piano, that's fantastic news. So I think there perhaps there's a little bit more scope for working more on technique, exploring the repertoire, and sorry, I lost a little bit the plot in there, so you want to edit this.
Oh yes, let's start again, of course.
Yeah, let's start
Absolutely.
again. Yeah. This is just going too much in circles. So yeah. Right. So I think yes, it's a really interesting question when you ask me to talk about repertoire. I think it's very important to work not only on the pieces perhaps that the students are working for grades or for exams, but also working on parallel repertoire and things that can really support the development of technique. And we tend to think of technique only, or many people think of technique as scales and arpeggios, which is necessary. There's no escape from it. But it's also, there's so many other ways in which you can really work on technical work, and particularly for those students who are in that area of grades 3 to 5, that they're starting to explore so many exciting aspects of the piano, not only in terms of the reach that they're having across the keyboard, but also in terms of pedaling and colors and more complicated textures. I think it's really important for them to kind of perhaps just grab those wonderful studies by Bergmüller, for example,
Yes,
the
very
25
nice.
short study,
Yes.
which are just wonderful. And some of them appear in grades at times, but there are so many of them that are unknown, and I cannot see how people don't get excited, how any students don't get excited about. Work on their counterpoints and just work on their facility and Bach. Just get all those the little preludes and fugues from Bach, and they really give you a fantastic scope of what can be done in terms of technique. There's Schumann with the album for the young that provides so much beauty and and the ability of kind of play with that romantic style. And one that I always recommend is for many of them, just grab Bartok's Microcosmos, and which is so fantastic. And you can find so many pieces from grade -1 in the first piece to all the way across, and it's always going to provide a fantastic challenge, in terms of harmony, in terms of new hand positions, new sounds, and new ways of exploring the keyboard. And I think that's something that I always try to kind of give my students, kind of parallel work that they always have to do.
I'm glad you mentioned Bergmüller, because I was for a couple of years actually I've been selecting syllabus for Trinity College, so like on the piano panel, and I really only then discovered these Bergmüller etudes, and I thought they were really fun and beautiful and very nice and short. And I also
Exactly, and the fact that they have names, and you know that you can kind of have just draw a picture around each of them. They're quite descriptive, and so they're really wonderful. And
And
there's also many more studies around that area that are just great, not only Cherny, which is good to see.
exactly. But I wanted to say that, you know, you kind of, I think, hit the concept really well, because even myself, like, I'm a really concert pianist, I play a lot, but in this period of time, I found it very difficult to have like a long piece where progress is really slow, and you know, you need some kind of, I think, positivity. And I think with these short-term pieces, if you can call them that way, or you can have a certain goals, they are really quite good for your mind, and also you feel, okay, I've made some progress and it's tangible, and you can see the end of the tunnel, because like with the Schubert sonata, you
No, exactly.
don't see it for a long time.
Yes.
One last question, if you don't mind. So, have you? I know you have a quite a busy department and lots of teachers. So, how do you motivate teachers for whom it's quite difficult at the moment? And also, if you have any special motivation, I don't know, words or thoughts for students.
Yes. Well, I think I consider myself quite lucky because I have a really fantastic team of piano teachers who I don't think I need to give them much motivation. They're always giving me things to do, and they're always asking for things to do. And any of my crazy ideas that I always put, they're always so keen to help. So in that way, I consider myself very lucky. They keep the pianists at the college really busy, and they give them just some really fantastic tuition. So I'm just really lucky to have them, really. And in terms of the students, I think for keeping motivation, I think the piano is learning the piano, not only the piano, learning any instrument is one. It's a fantastic quality to have, and it just gives you so many skills. And one of those is to understand patience and to understand the high quality of the effort that you need to put into for gaining something. There's no such thing at the piano as a kind of an easy path into it. And I think it's a real skill to be able to do it. And I think it's really worth it. And the wonderful thing, as you were saying, is just having that wonderful moment where you realize after all that work that you've put in, that absolutely wonderful result that you can actually sit down and play with effortlessly, where you stop thinking about so many things. I was just telling a student of mine, you are overthinking. You're just trying to control every single movement of your fingers, and that's what's stopping you. And I think at the end, when you're about to perform, you just in a magical way, you just have to let it go and trust your muscles. Your muscles have learned certain movements. Your brain has learned the notes. And you have to think as well. You have to think about the music most importantly, and let all the rest just happen. So it's a kind of this multitasking that is taking place at so many levels. It's a skill that really helps anyone in their future, whatever they do. So I think that's it's hard work. But it's really great results if you keep at it. So.
Fantastic. And actually, I also must say, I learn so much from these interviews and from people sharing their experiences. And I just wanted to say that you said exactly, you're overthinking. So one of the interviews actually will be with the mindset coach, like the psychology behind sort of playing and this. And one of the most important things that he mentioned is like, we need to let go. You know, it doesn't matter which thoughts are going, they're like clouds, you know, they go, we can't influence them, you know, we just need to accept it. But loads of fantastic advice, and so many interesting projects that I hope listeners will take on board and maybe implement in their environment. So thank you very much for being my guest, and have a lovely day. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Bye bye.
Julia.